Okay, so let me tell you this wild story. You think you know your family, right? But what happens when they show up at your door, keys in hand, ready to kick you out of a home you secretly own? Yeah, this is that story.
Those were the words my sister Vanessa hit me with. On a totally normal Tuesday morning, there she was, standing in my doorway, jingling a set of keys to a place she thought she'd just bought. My place.
So my mom and my sister show up at my penthouse completely unannounced. They were on this mission, convinced I was some kind of struggling failure that they needed to save. They'd even gotten a key card for the private elevator and just walked right in, with my sister chirping, "Surprise!" like this was a good thing.
They just started walking through my home, totally blind to the life I'd built for myself, already planning how they were going to tear it all down. My mom literally pulls a measuring tape out of her purse and starts going on about how dated my kitchen is, while Vanessa just stood there, jingling those damn keys.
You know, for 6 long years, my family had been telling themselves a story about me. And it was pure fiction. I mean, so far from the truth, it was almost funny. They never bothered to ask. They just assumed, filling in all the blanks with their own narrative about how I was failing at life.
I mean, the gap between how they saw me and who I actually was, it was just staggering. They figured my expensive Stanford degree was just collecting dust somewhere. In reality, it was the whole foundation for my firm, Class and Capital Analytics. They were picturing me in some sad little studio apartment while I was living here. They treated me like a charity case, never once in a million years imagining I'd built my own fortune.
Yeah, they thought I was totally broke. But the reality was, I'd built an investment portfolio worth over $40 million. I just did it quietly, on my own terms, while they were busy feeling sorry for me.
So right in the middle of Vanessa accusing me of squatting in my own home, the doorbell rings. Now, that was strange. The concierge never sends anyone up without calling first. The real authority in this situation was about to make an entrance.
It was Graham, the building manager, and he just calmly explained step by step how my sister had been completely professionally scammed. Some guy pretending to represent a real company cooked up some fake paperwork and sold her a penthouse that was never, ever for sale.
And this was the exact moment their entire illusion just shattered into a million pieces. Graham calmly pulls out the official property records and just lays out the facts. You should have seen the look on their faces. Absolutely priceless.
Not only did I own it, but I'd bought it for $2.8 million in cash, nearly 6 years ago. You could have heard a pin drop. The keys my sister had been so proud of, they fell right out of her hand and just clattered on the marble floor.
So with the truth finally out, we had to start dealing with the wreckage of their assumptions and a very, very real financial disaster. The shock was starting to fade, and a much harsher reality was setting in.
You know, the irony was just insane. When Vanessa accused me of hiding my life from her, I had to remind her that she'd once asked me for money. I loaned her $85,000 to get her own real estate career off the ground, a loan she had, conveniently forgotten all about. Graham went on to explain that my sister was the victim of something called deed fraud. It's a federal crime. These scammers create fake titles for properties they don't own and then sell them to people who don't know any better. He said there was an organized ring operating in the city. It didn't make her feel any better about losing the money, but it did confirm she wasn't stupid. She was targeted.
So yeah, she was out almost $500,000. Her entire down payment, just gone, wired to some fake escrow account. And all because she couldn't be bothered to just pick up the phone and ask me how I was doing.
So I finally laid it all out for them. My entire career. I told them how I worked at Goldman Sachs for a year, saved every penny of my signing bonus, lived on cheap pasta in a tiny apartment, and built my firm from the ground up. This was the path I'd walked, all on my own, while they were busy assuming the worst.
After the shock finally started to wear off, the reality of the whole mess really sunk in. Vanessa just looked completely defeated and asked if there was anything I could do to help. I told her yes, but not without some new ground rules.
Look, my terms weren't about the money. They were about respect, about accountability. I told her, you're going to tell everyone the full story, you're going to pay back what you owe me, and you are finally going to treat me like a competent adult.
As they were leaving, Vanessa finally said something that showed maybe she was starting to see me and not her idea of me. It was the first honest thing she'd said all day. A small start, maybe, but it was something.
A few weeks later, we all had dinner at the restaurant downstairs in my building. My dad, who I hadn't really talked to in 2 years, looked me in the eye and he finally apologized. He told me he was proud. And then Vanessa, she raised a glass to me. The simple words I had needed to hear for 6 years were finally being said out loud.
At that dinner, my dad also tried to pay me back $15,000 from a bad investment I had warned him against years ago. It wasn't about the money, not for either of us. It was about him acknowledging I was right. I took the check because he needed me to. That night, I got a text from my sister, and it showed me that maybe, just maybe, there was a real possibility for a future. She thanked me for not giving up on them, even when they had pretty much given up on me. In the end, this whole thing was never really about a penthouse. It's about how we see the people we're supposed to love. And sometimes, the success they can't see is the one they need to witness the most. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just build your world, quietly, until it becomes too big for anyone to ignore.